And even if I'm sitting here today, I'm not getting sales on Amazon because I worked hard today. I'm getting sales on Amazon because I worked hard last year.
He told me that if they would have quit in the middle of their journey after maybe 4 or 5 years, they would have had to start a new business. But only on the 5th or 6th year, they saw this exponential growth of their company just because they were putting a lot of work, or they were learning a lot, of course, they were making mistakes. And at the end, they found this kind of formula or things which work for their business, which also makes them grow much faster. In this video, we wanted to talk about compound effect. It's something which I think a lot of people have to understand, which works long term. It's not a short term, and we want to give some examples why it is important to think long term and where this compound effect shows up and when. So what is compound effect?
Compound effect is basically when you're starting out, when you're doing something, and you don't see the results right away. But these small steps what you're taking, they will add up in time. And you will suddenly see, for example, when you start your own business, like in not even in the first months, maybe like in the first years. On the first year, you're really struggling. The second year is going to be a little bit better. Then the third year, you're doing okay. And the fourth year, you're going to grow like 5 times. So did the growth happen like in the fourth year or in the first like 3 years? So the growth happened in the first 3 years. It's about seeing the bigger picture and trying to find the things what work for you. And in time, these things will really add up. And that's when the massive growth is going to happen.
This reminds me of a story of a guy I met several weeks ago in person. He's running a software as a service company, and I think they're in the business about 8 years. And he told me that if they would have quit in the middle of their journey after maybe 4 or 5 years, they would have had to start a new business. But only on the 5th or 6th year, they saw this exponential growth of their company just because they were putting a lot of work, or they were learning a lot, of course, they were making mistakes. And at the end, they found this kind of formula or things which work for their business, which also makes them grow much faster. So I think their core decision was when they realized that they don't need a physical office for their company, they need remote workers. So they kind of quit their physical office and they started to hire people all around the world, so they could be more flexible, and they could hire very good talent for maybe cheaper money somewhere in a developing country. It doesn't mean that these people were paid low, but it's just much easier, because when you have physical maybe office, it has a lot of costs involved for the government, for all the social security and everything. So it works for them much better having team or remotely. And he said it was very important not to stop. So, and many people, when they start doing something, they stop after, let's say, 3 months, and maybe they had to do 2 more months, and then you will see the changes.
But you would also have to what I think is the key to success is knowing the difference between when to give up and when to keep on pushing. With my first business, I should have used the compound effect as well, but I basically jumped to another vehicle and I still used it, but not with the same vehicle, So sometimes you need to play around and maybe start a little bit something else. You need to maybe adjust a little bit to make it work, because I know people who have tried to use the compound effect as well, but they haven't succeeded. But maybe their time is coming. You don't know that.
Well, maybe they just didn't. Well, there was no compound effect because they didn't wait in long enough.
Yeah, because they didn't wait long enough. But it's also about doing the right thing when you want to use that effect. When you're working on the wrong things, then you can't really see that effect.
Well, yeah, you learn, of course. If you know. Yeah, I don't really know if it's possible to evaluate. Of course, long term you cannot evaluate long term.
For example, if we talk about blogging and earning affiliate commissions, then I think that compound effect is the perfect example describing this thing, like when it comes to ranking in Google, sharing and social exposure, and
so keep putting your work.
So you need to do the work. You will not see the results in the first months, but in years, if you keep doing it, then you will eventually see the results. What's your personal experience about compound effect, Augustas? Have you seen it in any areas of your life, or in your business, or in your relationships, for example, or anywhere else?
Yeah, I think I don't remember much from the past. I'm more living. I'm not much analyzing the past usually, but I can now maybe relate to this by thinking of what I did in the last 2-3 years when I started virtual summits for Amazon sellers. I did already 6 virtual summits, and I can notice, like with the first virtual summit, of course, I put a lot of work. I was working maybe 5 months or 4 months on that project. I did some exposure of my name, and I got relationship with some speakers or industry experts and influencers. But at that time it was just like the beginning, and only with the like 3rd or 4th virtual summit I started to get more and more inquiries, for example, from other influencers, like, oh, I want to be on your summit, or some big person, there is I think Startup Bros, like this guy was saying, oh, my clients are telling I'm not on your virtual summit, how can I be there? I'm like, okay, I've heard your name, it's nice maybe to have you on my next summit. So you have to put work to be, of course, visible and to have this energy. And also now I did 6 virtual summits, and I see that I want to grow kind of my what I do by creating an in-person event. That's why I'm organizing a real conference in Prague. It's a big challenge, but I believe having a real conference will kind of, it's a next step for me, because I can. It's also another maybe topic by doing the same for long term, or like searching for innovation. So basically for me, creating an in-person event is like a new challenge I want to face in my business, which I believe will make me have this growth in the next like 1 or 2 years.
So you're basically, you said you started out with your first virtual summit and you had to put a lot of work into it, and you had to put less work into your second, third and fourth and sixth summit because you already knew how you have to do it, and you basically started growing faster. And now when you're doing these new things, you can see the effect again, because you have already done the work, you know what works and what's not working, so you can grow a lot faster. Exactly, basically, as you talked about that company before.
Yes.
But started growing after a few years. So you first have to put in the work, see how the market works, and then finally, once you unlock the lock, once you can crack the code, then you can really grow really fast.
Yeah. Again, it's very important to take action and not to be afraid, and not to be, not to create reasons why you shouldn't do that. And do you have any experience in Europe? Can you share some story of this compound effect? You said like it helped you to grow.
Especially when you're selling on Amazon, for example. When you start out, like I always like to say that every sale counts when you're starting out. It's not just like $5 what you made last week on Tuesday. It's just, like over time you're going to, these sales are really starting to grow. So what now looks like nothing, when you're getting a few sales a week or a few sales a day, or like making a few $100s a month, in time these things will start growing. And at one point things start growing exponentially, and you will really see the growth that you haven't seen before. But to see that, you would have to stay in the game and do the right things. And I've seen that with my Amazon FBA business, and I've also seen that in other areas in my life. For example, when me and my friend was having a real estate agency back home, and I was basically working as a broker. At some point, when you're doing these calls to try to get listings, and you're doing these calls and you're only getting few, but when you do, for example, 20 calls every day for 1 month, then at the beginning of second month, those guys who you called in the first month are going to give you a call back. So basically what happened is those people started calling me after 1 or 2 months, and they said, Olav, you called me a few months ago to ask if we want to sell our apartment or a house. And I said, yes, I did, of course. And then I got the listing, and I got like few listings in a week. But it didn't happen because I did the work in the second one. It happened because I did the first, because I did the work a few months ago. That's why I got great results on my third month. And even if I'm sitting here today, I'm not getting sales on Amazon because I worked hard today. I'm getting sales on Amazon because I worked hard last year. This is what enables me to sit here, and this is what enables you to sit here and do your thing. This is because you worked last year. It's not because you worked yesterday, as you said, and you stopped at 2 a.m. It's not because of that. It's because you worked last year.
Yes. It reminds me, I recently watched an interview with Jeff Bezos where he talked that he and his executive team, they always talk only about things which are happening in 2-3 years. They are not like when somebody approaches him and says, oh, you had a great first quarter results, like it's a great, and he says, well, yeah, it's a results which we were thinking about already 3 years ago. So it's like, I was like really amazed, like they are thinking so much in the future.
Exactly. So the results what most of the companies are having is because they made the right decisions a few years ago. And this is exactly what's going on with someone's life when they want to start an online business or do like anything else. When they want to have it and to make it happen, they need to make that decision today so they can get that result in 1, 2, 3 years.
Yeah, so to summarize, think long term, as Amazon does.
As Jeff Bezos does, and it has worked for him.
Yeah. Let's copy that guy.
It has worked for him, and we have the privilege to sell on Amazon as well. So I would recommend anyone who wants to do it just to even like have a look at it to see.
And there is.
You might be interested in it.
Yeah, and I think there is also a book which I have never read, but I've heard it's good. It's just called Compound Effect. I don't remember the author. Maybe we'll put the link below this video. But yeah, so let's think long term and let's make our business grow.
And for this video, he promised that I can say the ending for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, then leave a comment. And if you have any other questions what you don't want to mention in the comment, then send us a message. See you in the next video.